Okay, so today I want to talk about a very delicate subject. It's about two different cases, and one of them is Roll Red Roll, and the other one is Audrey and Daisy. And they both happened in 2012. Roll Red Roll was in Ohio, and Audrey and Daisy was in Missouri. And, these were rape cases by teens against younger teens, underage teens. So let's start with Roll Red Roll. This took place in 2012. Both cases did actually. And it was absolutely disgusting. I had nearer the time heard about it, but I was reminded of this case a few days ago. And I just remember how sick I felt the first time. And so, if any of you know anything about it, what you know is that there was a teenage girl that had been at one specific party. She'd had a few to drink. There was a good few teenagers there, but there was one boy that she sort of knew, but with him was three others, and they took her in their car to a second location after the first party, and then a third, which was in one of their homes. And on the way, they had discussed raping her like it was just a casual thing. And this girl was actually out. So, yeah, they had their way with her in many ways. They raped her anally, not just vaginally. They violated her body in every way you can imagine. There were videos, there was pictures. They even had a conversation on like social media, like it was a normal fucking thing, referring to her as a dead body. And that they pounded her. Fucking dirty, disgusting, filthy things that even made me feel violated. And they were football players. And so immediately when this happened, she got a backlash of everything. Everyone at school knew about it. The girls thought she was a whore, which she weren't, and it was disgusting. If you do have Netflix and you have seen the documentary, they interview a couple of the girls from the school, and basically they said, oh yeah, well, she does have a couple of provocative photos on her profile, so yeah, she did kind of deserve it. No, fuck off. No one, and I repeat, no one deserves that. No one. And for anybody to say otherwise, there's something wrong with you. 110 billion% there's something fucking wrong with you. There are things you don't do in life, and that is one of them. And that's why I don't believe in judgment. But obviously in this case, I do have my opinion. I'm a woman, and it's happened to me. And it takes a lot to address your abuse and to get through it. She had the whole school against her. They're talking about it. There was no remorse, like they'd done anything wrong. And their coach didn't give a flying fuck. Their parents knew about it, which is even more sickening and twisted, tried to cover it up. And, people started talking about how they're like, radio stations, for example, many going, oh, I don't think they've done anything wrong. And fuck off. Do not sit there and tell me that that is okay. There was enough evidence that they made because they're fucking idiots and bragged about it the day after. With the videos of swinging her while she's not even awake, stripping her, putting her in certain positions. Nah. And then you're talking about her and referring to her as a dead body. Are you nuts? And you're also admitting in these videos that you raped her. They go, bro, you raped her. Yeah, I raped her, bro. Yeah. Nah, fuck off. Don't even chat to me, innit? Don't even tell me that someone deserves that. Because I'm telling you right now, in this case, if on the news, for those of you out there that watch the news, whether it's TV or, the paper or whatever, if it was a case of an adult raping a child, like, a toddler or even a baby, you wouldn't even, there wouldn't even be the suspicion. You wouldn't go, oh, no, he didn't do that. Immediately, if you saw that on the news, you'd be like, oh, my God, he needs to be put away straight away. So you tell me right now why it is that this girl wasn't believed and was referred to at school, was bullied, harassed, fucking hate mail, they had to move everything, and it was just abuse for something that she didn't have control over. There are things that you do and things you don't do. And that is one of the things you don't do. And to sit there and say, oh, she just wants attention, or, oh, you've ruined these 4 boys. Go fuck yourself. What kind of people are you? And I know every single motherfucker that decided to root against this poor teenage girl, I know each of you out there that made those comments, that you haven't been in a situation like that. Which means, anyway, period, you're not entitled to judgment. Everyone has their opinions. Yes, they fucking do. But you know what? There's a time and a place. And you respect people. I tell you now, it just takes one time for you to disrespect the wrong person, and that's it. I tell you right now, this was a disgrace, absolute disgrace. Like I say, adults knew about it, everyone knew about it. She couldn't say or do anything. She was called a whore, a slut. And like I say, people that generally do things like this, they don't generally brag about it either, which kind of was really disturbing, because I know about serial rapists, serial killers, and generally speaking, when you have a serial killer or rapist, there's a reason why they do it. But when they commit their crime, they do their best to leave no evidence behind. And that is purely because they want to do it again. So they're going to try and evade. And the only times you'll find that these serial killers, rapists, will then brag will be once they're arrested or in prison. That's it. But and these are only 17-year-old boys. And people are also referring to them as men. They're not fucking men. Are you nuts? Fuck off. No man would ever do that to a woman. Ever. You ain't no fucking man. I'll tell you that right now. And the parents, what the fuck is going on with you? Honestly, you're a disgrace. You're an absolute disgrace. And this is why our world is fucked. Because there are things that people know and they don't speak up about. And I tell you right now, the ones that choose to ignore certain things comes round in a full fucking circle. Let me tell you now. The trial for this girl came a year later, more or less. Well, ish, just under. And only 2 of them got tried, and one of them got 1 year in juvenile centre, and the other one got 2. Bollocks. Absolute bullshit. And, the way they bragged about it, the way they spoke about her indicated to me that they're sociopaths, which was disturbing to me because they had no empathy. They didn't even try and hide it. They had conversations for all to see. There was enough evidence to actually convict these people. And you are referring to them as men, but they were tried as juvies. So, you know what? They should have been tried as adults in that case, which then they would have had to have served a consecutive sentence. Because there was enough evidence that they made themselves like fucking cunts. And boom. Yeah, it was still kind of disputed in the trial. And I don't know how much more evidence one can get. You know what I mean? Like, you're lucky if someone actually commits a murder and there's all that evidence of videos, pictures, you know, chats on social media. You nuts. This is what half of the time, you know, people need to convict you in the first place. There's got to be a form of evidence. And it made me laugh when it was like, oh, well, there isn't quite enough. Nah, fuck you. There's enough goddamn fucking evidence. And for the secret society that helped this girl and came out when this case and supported her, you know, while it was going on and all of that stuff, I'm so happy that you guys could just support her like that. You know, if I could have, I would have. Because, you know, there are things in this life that, you know, you don't, like, I don't even wish that upon my own worst enemy. But for those of you that made those comments, that didn't even know her, that you know, kind of nationally, like, on social media, that weren't, you know, actually from the state of Ohio, and they just, you know, were commenting on the trials and everything, and they were saying comments like, oh, you know, she did it for attention, oh, you know, she's ruined their lives. For all you motherfuckers out there that got something like that to say, I know the only reason that you're saying that shit is because you haven't been through it yourself. So, you know what? I say to you, sit down and back the fuck up, honestly. You have no fucking right. There's a difference when you know what it feels like. And it's easy to judge when you can't even, like, relate, because actually you've never been through it. That's the difference. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, child, elderly. It really doesn't fucking matter. The statistics for rape globally are sickening. Absolutely sickening. And the things that aren't being done about it are even more sickening. And the adults in this case that covered it up, so the parents, the principals, teachers, because then after their case happened the following year in 2013, they found out that earlier in 2012, the same boys or someone else among that team of football players had raped a 14-year-old girl. And the principal knew about it, so did some of the teachers. So then they got tried. Nothing too much actually come of it, unfortunately. That's sick. That's disgusting, and it's a disgrace. Because I know right now, if one of you had been through that, you would not have sat there and said some of the nasty things that you said about this poor girl. And it's disgusting. You know, there aren't even words of how disgusting it is. And, you know, it's not something easy to get over. Let me fucking tell you that now. Everyone goes through their trials and tribulations. I don't give a fuck who you are, whether you're a football player, you're an athlete, you're rich, you're famous, a politician. Don't give you the fucking right to play God. And that's exactly what these boys did. Let me tell you now. And, you know, they did indicate also signs of necrophilia. Because what person would have sex with someone that was unconscious and not moving. It's common sense and it's logic. And it doesn't take a lot for anyone to actually process the facts of these cases. And, you know, the boys themselves used the word rape repeatedly, which indicated they knew what they did. They didn't give a flying fuck. And, you know, everybody wanted to protect them because they're football. Go fuck yourself. The coach was a fucking cunt as well. Sitting there acting, oh, no. No, no, no. No, no, no. You cannot imagine. So the other one I wanted to discuss is Audrey and Daisy, which actually is a new one-ish on Netflix. But this took place in Missouri in 2012 as well, weirdly enough. And these two girls were sexually assaulted. And they were 14. And, you know, actually, Daisy, you know, she killed herself last year in 2020 after trying to deal with this abuse for 8 years. You know, trying to work through it, and to find out after 8 years of trying to cope with it, that she took her own life. Yeah, devastating. You know, also then, you know, 4 months later, her mother took her own life. Their father, before, you know, any of this happened, died in a car crash. You know, and also, she had a brother, and the brother, you know, it was one of his mates. That's how it's fucked. You know, they're inviting these girls over, giving them alcohol, and they're just blackout, you know. And in this case, you know, they were 14 and the boys were 16, 17. And it was different. These boys, you know, when they were being interviewed, they did hide a few things, but because they knew. This is what the difference was with this case in comparison to the Roll Red Roll case, was that the boys that did this actually knew they'd done something wrong. So that's why it wasn't discussed. But one thing that was quite disturbing to me was that, you know, Audrey, you know, after her situation, she hung herself 9 days after the actual incident in 2012. And, but, you know, the night it all happened, and, you know, they were blackout, like I say, unconscious, didn't give consent. And, you know, they literally chucked her on the lawn, you know, put her in their clothes and left her there. And it was lucky that her mother, you know, looked out the window early in the morning and saw her on the floor and woke her up. You know what I mean? That fucking woof. That right there, another big thing right there. You know, again, this is behavior that, you know, you've got to question. You do, because you've got to think, well, where is this coming from? Why is it that these boys think that they can do this? And the truth is because in America, you guys seem to be all about, you know, looks. You know, you're quite shallow, if I'm honest, you know, in schools. You know, when it comes to cheerleading and sports and football players, you know, being popular, you know, and it's a disgrace, you know, people that, if you will, that don't fit in those categories, you know, go for enough bullying, generally without it turning into a sexual assault of some kind, or you know, some form of violation, you know, and it was very difficult, you know, again, with this case, but they managed to, actually get information from these boys in the end, in the long run. And, they did actually do a bit of time for it, which was well deserved, because the intentions are absolutely fucking there. When it's easy, it's so fucking easy to think, well, actually, if you find someone attractive, when you're a female, like where I'm from, it's quite aggressive here, very aggressive. So, 9 times out of 10, I can be walking and someone will try and stop me, but I've had to put on a persona because of what's happened to me. It's kind of like, don't fuck with me, otherwise you're going to get something. You know what I mean? So, I've had to live and learn, with these situations and the prior assaults that I faced. And, like I say, where I'm from, people are very aggressive. Men are very aggressive. And, it's not something that should be normal. And it's not something that anybody should ever do to anybody else. It doesn't matter where they're from, what they look like, the race they are, if they're popular, not popular, rich or not. You know what I mean? None of these things are of any value to that. You shouldn't get away with murder just because you're, I don't know, a politician. You know what I mean? No. At the end of the day, the justice system has failed and failed and failed and failed again and again and again. And I can't stress this enough. There needs to be a lot more things that need to be broken down in the system for there to be a major change, so that all around the world, no matter what the situation is, if you have cases like this, why would one person get 15 years, for example, and then say the other person, if it was literally almost a parallel case, why would they get, say, 5 years or probation? What is the difference? And generally speaking, for what the situation is, it isn't a difference. There isn't a difference, so it doesn't make sense to me why, one person would get this and another person would get that. But again, it all comes down to biased views, biased opinions, which you're talking about, obviously the judge themselves, you're talking about the district attorneys, you're talking about the jurors, you're also, which doesn't help matters, is media. Media exaggerate to get you to watch and listen and pay attention. That's how they get their views and ratings. And a lot of people don't realize, and they get swept in. Everything is about ratings, about money all the time. And what's happening is we're actually forgetting how to respect one another. And let me put it this way. In these cases, so, for example, the first case, roll, red, roll, 1 female, 4 boys. If that had been a situation of a guy, so one of those boys was inebriated, and then 4 girls took that one boy, and they had done what those boys did to this one girl, what do you think the outcome of that would have been? And I think that's a very valuable question, because I know that this whole thing would have been flipped, and there'd have been no backlash. It would have been a case of, well, that girl raped me, and she'd have been tried. I know. I absolutely fucking know. So in this case, what is different? They're football players? Fuck off. Give me a break. They ruined their own lives. Simple. You reap what you fucking sow. That's why I live by respecting others, because it takes you only one time to disrespect someone you have no idea what they're capable of, for you to learn a very, very hard lesson. And I cannot stress that enough. And these cases are happening more and more and more. And one case I will be discussing, which again was a sexist thing, was Lorraine Bobbitt. And many of you may have heard of her and her trial. I'll talk about her at another point. But in this case, this was sickening. This was something almost that the devil created. You know, it was that violent, that vile and sickening and disgusting. You know, the things that people think is okay, it's not okay. And, you know, I will only ever have respect for those that have that patience in life, you know, and that understanding, because no one deserves to be judged. And, you know, right now, if you guys want to ask me questions, that's cool, I'll talk to you. But if you want to get at me, I won't respond to you. And the truth is, I don't give a flying fuck. You can disagree with me, do whatever the fuck you want, yeah? Just, this is me trying to help others. And hopefully, you know, I can get some attention of you guys to make a change. And this is why I've created this channel, to help others, to make people aware of certain failures, so that there's enough realization for change across the globe. Not just in one case there or another case here, everywhere. Because, you know, there's too much of this biased crap going around for no good reason. You know, life is hard enough as it is, without certain individuals doing these things to overcomplicate it. And, you know, it's easy. It's so easy to be respectful of others. That I can promise you. It really, really is. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave you. If you do have any questions, let me know.